Friends, today's NRI Samai program from Los Angeles brought to you commercial free by listeners like you. Your generous donations make possible for us to stay commercial free, and today's show is pre-recorded. If you have a question for the guest, please send an email to nrisamai@gmail.com. We will follow up with the guest and find the answer for you. Thank you for your support.
Hello friends, welcome back to NRI Samai. At the behest of both houses, Rajyasabha and Loksabha passing the Lokpal bill, it's time to take a closer look at what are the intricacies of this bill, what is inside this bill, and how this bill can be utilized by a common man, and how this bill is going to address the corruption that's around us. So as always, creation of bill might be the most easiest thing, but implementing it is the most difficult thing as well. We have so many institutions for anti-corruption, the police, the IB, the CBI, the CVC, the CAG, but none of them prove effective in the absence of political will. So hoping that this Lokpal bill will at least bring in some change, rewinding and then looking at it after 8 unsuccessful attempts in the last 5 decades, the Lokpal bill finally saw the light of the day on December 18th. It's important now to understand that the bill, although a very good beginning, might not be a magic wand that can fight corruption. So to be effective, it must be part of a series of actions, parallel actions, that can have effective architecture to fight against corruption. So to talk about this Lokpal bill today, we have Justice Santosh Hegde with us. So listen to this conversation, friends.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for taking time off to explain this Lokpal. There's a lot of buzz going on about Lokpal, but the bigger picture is the Lokpal terminology has become such a jargon that people either think that, yes, we got Lokpal. The second thing is, yes, we didn't get Lokpal. There are only two things that they're talking about, but the intricacies and how it is useful and what is Lokpal going to deliver, a lot of people have confusion. Sir, if you could just explain me a little bit.
Do you have the time for me to tell you the background, how this enactment came into this thing?
Please, sir, go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, in early 60s, then the government of India found there was a lot of corruption and maladministration in the Indian administrative service. Therefore, it wanted some solution to the problem. It referred this matter to the first Administrative Reforms Commission to find a solution. That commission made extensive inquiries and investigations, both nationally and internationally, and found that the existing system of ombudsman in Scandinavia was one that reflected the Indian system very well, and made a recommendation to the government of India to have such an ombudsman in the center for watching the administration in the center, and a similar one in each state. It named the center position as Lokpal and at the state as Lokayukt. But this is 1966. None of the governments thereafter implemented that suggestion by making a law into that effect. Some state governments, including the state of Karnataka, implemented that, and in Karnataka, in 1984, the law was passed, and 86 that institution came into existence. Similarly, in Madhya Pradesh and some other states, the Lokayukts came into existence, very few states.
Right.
Over the years, then everything was quiet, nothing happened. The center, whenever there was a pressure, they would draft a bill, but never bring it into effect at all. In 2010, when Mr. Anna Hazare was fighting against corruption, wanted a strong Lokpal to be established at the center, the agitation became very, very strong, and the government felt the pressure of that and said, okay, we will introduce the bill and all. They introduced a bill at the center, while Anna Hazare's team recommended a particular format and called it Jan Lokpal. The government did not accept it. It prepared its own draft and placed it before the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha accepted it. But when the matter went to Rajya Sabha, the Rajya Sabha did not accept it. On the contrary, it referred it back to the select committee for clearing some doubts in it and all. Right. Now, that was done in 2011, and it is reported that the select committee did make the recommendation and send it to the government, but it was not placed before the Rajya Sabha again for some reason or other. In 2013, recently, Anna Hazare again went on a fast, saying that I will not break the fast unless and until this bill is passed by both the houses.
Right.
At the same time, in Delhi state assemblies, the major political parties, the Congress and the BJP, didn't get majority. Congress fared very badly. On the contrary, a party floated by one of the active supporters of Anna Hazare, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, formed a party called Aam Aadmi Party. It contested for the first time, and out of 70 seats, it's got 28 seats. So it also sent a simultaneous message to the government that the people are not willing to accept the stand taken by the government of India and other major political parties, you know. Right. It is in this background, in a hurry, the government of India placed the bill again before the Rajya Sabha, and it was unanimously passed on the very day it was tabled before it and all. Then the next day they placed it before the Lok Sabha, and it was passed also almost unanimously, except SP, so Samta Party and this thing, Shiv Sena opposing it and all. But others, they passed it straight away. Now the bill is passed and all, it has to go to the President for assent. Thereafter it will become an enactment and it has to be implemented by putting in the infrastructure in place and all. Well, right. This is how this bill came into existence. It's an ombudsman system whereby the people who have any grievance against the government or the government officials, it's both political as well as bureaucratic. If there is any complaint against them, any person can approach this institution and give a complaint, which will be investigated by this institution. Earlier, such complaints were not being investigated by any agency, and people had to go to the court straight away and file writ petitions or such like actions had to be taken if they want anything to be investigated, both for criminal activities, that is under the Prevention of Corruption Act, or for executive defaults and other things. Now that problem will be solved. People can approach the Lokpal at the center and say that if certain benefits are entitled to me under the existing dispensation and I'm not getting it. So that institution will look into it, and if it is found to be correct, then it will direct the government or the concerned government official to implement that order. Similarly, if there are complaints of corruption, nepotism or any such activities which can be brought to the notice of the Lokpal, and the Lokpal would certainly look into it, they're supposed to look into it, and if it's found that there's prima facie case, then it will be placed before the court for further action in the matter. So this is an institution to oversee good governance, including prevention of corruption, nepotism and arbitrariness in administration.
Excellent, excellent. So let us take a very simple case. I heard of multiple people saying that that I try to get a death certificate. There is a guy who doesn't even give death certificate when unless I bribe him. So let's take this small case, sir. Now let's talk about knitting this case study with the Lokpal. Let's imagine I as a person want to get some birth certificate or death certificate, whatever it is. Now what do I do as a citizen?
Yeah, there are two things and all. The Lokpal only looks into the deficiencies of service or the malpractice in the central government services and all. Death certificate is not a central government service, but that comes under the jurisdiction of the Ayuks in the state. The people who maintain birth and death register are public servants of the state. And if such people do not do that, then the aggrieved person can approach the Lokayukt at the state concerned and give a complaint to him. And the Lokayukt will certainly look into it. They'll ask questions to the holder of that office which maintains the register and ask him questions why you are not doing it. If there is no acceptable explanation from him, and the direction will be given to him to give it within a specified period, maybe 10 days or 15 days. So that will be looked after by them, which is we used to do in Karnataka. We used to get such complaints and all. We used to handle it pretty fast.
Now, sir, this is the question. So now the government is saying, and in the Lokpal there is a provision saying that each state government has got 365 days to start a Lokayukt of whatever nature they wish to have it. Of course, Karnataka, I feel it's little powerful, but Delhi Lokayukt and all are not really toothless, right? So now, let's imagine in these 365 days, is it mandatory that all the states should start some kind of Lokayukt? Is that true or not, sir?
Well, the center originally in the proposed bill had said both Lokpal and Lokayukts to be established, but many states took an objection to that, saying that it is our prerogative to have it under the Indian Constitution. Under the Indian Constitution, there are 3 lists which empowers legislation. List 1 empowers the Parliament alone to make laws pertaining to whole of the country. List 2 empowers the state governments to make laws pertaining to that state only. List 3 is called the concurrent list, under which both Parliament and the state can make laws, either confining it to one state or to the entire, the legislatures of the state can pass it only to that state, and the center can make law for the entire country and all. Now a dispute has arisen between some of the states and the center that the federalism is being affected by you taking over the power of drafting a law and compulsorily imposing it on the states and all. But therefore the Parliament has stepped back a bit and said we will only make a model law and it is for you to implement it. But in that process they have also said that it should be done within 365 days. How far the states will do it is a matter to be seen, because there may be a constitutional dispute between the center and the state. But because of the likely public pressure, I'm sure every state will copy that law. It's a model law, and implement it, because the people of India today are quite aware of their right to have a good governance. Merely saying we'll have a government in process and we will administer the country is not enough. That's what the public feeling seems to be. So to appease the voters at least, they will bring in this law within the stipulated time.
Excellent. So now I'm again coming back to the case study. I'm hoping that the income tax department, income tax IRS officer or someone, or anybody who's an inspector in income tax would come under the central government Lokpal thing. So let's imagine I'm dying to get my refund from past 3 years. Can this guy, let's take this guy as a case study, can he approach the Lokpal as a citizen, say that, hey, I've been trying for my refund from past 3 years. I've been going rounds with this income tax department. So can he go to the Lokpal, and what would the Lokpal do, sir?
The Lokpal will certainly entertain your complaints, hold a preliminary investigation, and call for an explanation from the concerned tax authorities, because we have regional offices in different states, and call for an explanation. And if they are not satisfied, it will give a direction. And if the explanation given by the concerned income tax officer is satisfactory, that the claimant is not entitled for refund, or there are certain things he has not fulfilled, then appropriate orders will be issued either to the SSC to say that comply with the requirement of the law. But if everything is complete and the tax officer is withholding it only for the purpose of getting some illegal gratification, then the Lokpal will issue directions to him and see that the direction is implemented.
Okay, so now you said that the Lokpal will call for a preliminary inquiry and then ask this guy, this income tax officer, saying that why are you not doing this? In this process, would the evidence be tampered? And this guy, either he will issue the refund, which is good, which is what RTI is doing. In RTI, you ask him a question, he will just set right and then do the needed activity, which is good for citizens. You tamper the evidence, and that is one side of it, wherein he will tamper the evidence because he has been asked an explanation. The second side of it is he can even go to an extent where we'll talk about the second part later on. But tampering the evidence, how big of a deal is this, sir? What do you think about it?
Well, tampering of evidence under the Indian laws is an offence, a criminal offence. If in the process of investigation the Lokpal comes to the conclusion that there has been tampering of the evidence, it will initiate criminal proceedings against that officer.
Okay.
These things do happen in a country like India, but these institutions are meant only to prevent such incidents now. It all depends ultimately with the people manning the institution.
Right. There will
be quite a bit of human involvement in it and all. Therefore, a strong lokaयुक्त institution can prevent all that. There is no difficulty at all.
Right. And also, I don't know if this is true or false, but there are people who are saying that suppose a citizen files a complaint to Lokpal against some corrupt government servant. Before the investigation actually could start, the government servant can file a counter complaint against a citizen straight to a special court, wherein without any preliminary inquiry by the agency that the complaint is false or frivolous, the government is also say, I don't know whether this is true, the government might even provide a free advocate to the government servant to file this case saying that this case is frivolous. If he's got that power wherein his bureaucrats and politicians are hand in glove, at least in Andhra Pradesh, it happened wherein the chief minister has passed 28 GOs with IAS officers, right? So the citizen will have to defend on his own or himself, right? So how true is this, sir? What's the risk factor in this?
No, I don't think it is a common thing. There may be isolated cases where there is a conspiracy between the corrupt officer and his colleagues to either save that officer or to maliciously harass the person who is giving a complaint. At the same time, let us not forget the fact there are citizens who are also maliciously complaining all the time against the government officers and all. So there is a need for protecting the government officers from such malicious or false complaints and all. At the same time, you are right, there are government officers who do take steps to harass these people. But everything lies in the hands of the investigating agency, which is now controlled by the Lokpal. And if the investigating agency also fails to do that, the citizen, it's free for him to go to a court of law and ventilate his grievances in the court of law. Well, of course, these are all problems which will take a lot of time and money. But these are exception to the rule. But the main thing is, here is an institution which is created to provide assistance to people who are suffering from maladministration. So we have to look at this institution positively, hoping that it will do something better than the existing system.
Right.
Friends, NRI Samay is a non-profit independent alternate media from Los Angeles, USA, which brings positive stories from grassroots activists from all corners of India and across the world. Among others, we focus on stories of need for equality, inspiration, environment, health, and politics. NRI Samay does not rely on corporate funding, and thus our shows are commercial free. We only rely on your donations. Please consider donating to NRI Samay, and all donations are kept transparent on nrisamay.com.
And also, you agree to the fact that there's a citizen who complains, and even before it goes to investigation, the government official can file a counter complaint. Is that true or false, sir?
That's not true.
It is not true.
There is no provision. There is no forum where the government officer can go and complain that this person is harassing me, is filing malicious complaints against me, such like things. There is no such forum at all. But under the present Lokpal Act, it says if a complaint is found to be malicious, deliberate, with falsehood, then such person can be imprisoned by the Lokpal orders up to an extent of 2 years of imprisonment or up to 20,000 rupees fine. This is an exceptional cases where the act of the complainant should be found to be malicious, a deliberate falsehood.
Okay.
Not otherwise. No, he can't straight away, without even responding to the complaint, file a counter complaint. No, he can't.
Okay, which is good. That's the intent. But somebody has complained, and even before something happens, Lokpal takes some measures to ask for an application. If that guy is doing a counter complaint, it doesn't really have much of it. So the second thing is, there is another side where people think that this Lokpal targets citizens rather than this attacking this crony capitalism and the political corruption going out there.
Yeah.
Now, there is also something that's being going on Facebook wherein people talk saying that there is stiffer punishment for the complainant than the corrupt government servant itself. That means if the special court concludes that the complaint is frivolous or false, the citizen faces an imprisonment of 2 years or even 5 years. But if the corruption charges against the government servant is proved, there could be a minimum punishment for the corrupt government servant, which could vary anywhere from 6 months to even, probably whatever extent. Is that true?
Under this act, it has been enhanced to 2 years minimum for a public servant,
2 years.
And there is no question of a complainant being sent, except in the circumstances which I mentioned, when the complaint is frivolous, defaming or such like act on the part of the complainant. No, nothing can be done to him. At the most, he can dismiss his complaint. Beyond that, if the officer concerned feels that he has been defamed in the matter, he can separately file a defamation case.
Excellent.
You can't otherwise proceed against the complainant.
Wonderful. So the other pieces that are being talked about is Group A, Group B, Group C controversies, where they say that this new Lokpal. What is true, sir? What all does Lokpal cover? It covers Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. There are 4 divisions which were earlier talked about. Does it cover only Group A?
No. It covers all 4 categories.
All the 4 categories. Like in Group A is like IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS.
Top class and all, and the local level this thing and all. It covers the entire central government administration.
Entire central government administration.
Yeah, except there are some exceptions like acts of foreign relations, armed forces, contracts, other things are at present not allowed to be investigated by Lokpal.
Which is good.
That may be because of the internal security and other reasons and all.
Very true.
But some of us who have been in the other side of the fence feel why should that be kept aside? Because we have been having huge corruption in defense purchases.
Right.
This has got nothing to do with the security of this country.
Right.
It's an out-and-out commercial transaction. Why do you want to keep it away from that and all? Anyway, that's a different matter. I wouldn't raise that as an issue now because I feel quite satisfied with the present law, though it's not fully satisfying me. In the present circumstances, because already 45, 46 years have gone by, I think at least now let us accept this institution and let it be established and start functioning and see how it functions. Then if need be, when it functions well, we'll support its cause to having more powers.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, that means there is a bill right out there which is already passed in both Lok Sabha and Rajyasabha, and we're hoping the President would sign up. But one got to really know how this is basically being used. I brought up an example of how if you're not getting an income tax refund, how Lokpal can step in. That gives us a good insight of what we are missing right now. Because I can't go to court. I know that going to court, hiring a lawyer, going through all these processes.
If it is more than the refund.
Yes. It is more than the refund, yes. And it's, at least in Karnataka, I don't know whether it is true or not, but Karnataka you pay 25 rupees and then say that there's something that's not happening, I'm not getting a birth certificate or death certificate. Lokaयुक्त has solved and I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart when you are the...
Mr. Srikanth, let me make one thing clear. We are giving unnecessary credit to certain people and all merely because others have not done their job. No, what was being done by Lokayukta in Karnataka during my period was the discharge of duty only, for which we were paid handsomely.
Very true.
Let's not give it any extra push.
Perfect.
You can only appreciate, yes, you have done your job. Beyond that, there is nothing more than that. Others have not done their job.
Right, very true, sir. Yes, I'll stick to that. You are absolutely right. It's delivering the job and doing the right thing. Yep. And so the other part of it is jurisdiction over all the NGOs. Now, government Lokpal is saying that it will have jurisdiction over all the NGOs in the country, no matter where they are, even if it is a village level NGO, which is coming under the purview of a village also. They are saying that they'll have jurisdiction over all the NGOs in the country. But the government Lokpal says that they'll have jurisdiction over just 1% or 2% of government employees. That comes under the central government purvieiew. So how true is this, sir? Having a full control of every NGO across the country, whether state, district or Gram Panchayat, but having just only national level government employees, central government employees into the belt of Lokpal.
No, I don't think you are correct there. I don't think under the Lokpal Act, the Government of India gets control over all the NGOs in the country at all. That's one of the grievances what we have is we want the government to have control over those NGOs in their activity of financial involvement with the government only, central government only. But that is also not what has happened. They have not included all the NGOs under the purview of the Lokpal. Our demand was that those NGOs who take money from the government to discharge governmental duties, they must have, over them the government, this Lokpal must have control because they are utilizing the funds of the state which is meant for the benefit of the people of this country. Now if that money is siphoned off and not used for the purpose for which it was given, then they must be held responsible for misappropriation or corruption, whatever that is involved there. That was necessary, but they have not included them in the NGOs. We want similarly other organizations which are not government organizations, which are contracting with the government, which are taking funds from the government to discharge governmental functions, must be controlled by Lokpal because a lot of money which is given for the developmental purposes in this country, both by the central government and the state government, are being misutilized and does not go to the purpose for which it has been given. Therefore, some sort of a control should be there. They can't be outside the scope of either Lokpal or Lokayukt.
Right, very true, sir.
But at the same time, in voluntary activities which they are doing, with which the state funds are not used or state powers is not used, they should be left alone, and these institutions should not have any control over these bodies.
Right. Perfect. It makes absolute sense when the funds are flowing in and it's being said that it's being used for the public purpose, and then you have some foreign funds coming through, and then the money being misutilized. There is a need for someone to step in and then look into that. Perfect.
No. If the NGO brings funds on its own, and uses it for its objectives, whatever the objectives are, then these bodies should not have a control over that. Yeah, but if these NGOs are using the funds of the Government of India or the state governments for doing the governmental work, then they must have a control over that. If it is being used, funds are acquired by the NGO directly from donors from abroad, then it is a matter between the donor and this NGO, whether they are utilizing it for the object for which they collected the donation or not. There, if you allow the central government or the state government, then there will be problem. Or even for that matter, Lokayukta or Up-Lokayukta, other Lokpals. There they should be independent in handling it, and their activity may be monitored by the donors themselves. But if you allow these people, there will be hundreds of complaints that will come in by people who are competing in the same line or people who are jealous of these NGOs and other things. Right. I'm only saying only the funds received by the Government of India or the Government of States in India.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll ask another couple of questions before I wrap up, sir.
Go ahead.
The other one is MLAs under the purview of Lokpal. Let's imagine I have my MLA who's not delivering it, and he's using his MLA funds, sniping it off, and then not using it for the public purpose. Would Lokpal pitch in? There is a confusion that Lokpal only handles MPs and not MLAs.
No, Lokpal handles only MPs. You are right that your impression is correct, because MPs come within the central government jurisdiction. Okay.
Okay.
Whereas MLAs come under the Lokayukts of the state.
Okay.
Yeah, so, because Union of India or the central government has nothing to do with the MLAs because they are members of the state legislatures.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but they have the power is best with the Lokayukts.
Oh, right, sir. This is one clarification I've had, wherein there are some notes that are being written everywhere out in the open saying that MLAs can also be taken care of.
So MLAs are in those states where there is a Lokayukt, they come under the jurisdiction of the Lokayukts. All members of parliament come within the jurisdiction of the Lokpal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, sir. So one other thing is independence of CBI. Could you throw some light on how this existing Lokpal would at least, and we know that Supreme Court has said this, said that CBI is a caged parrot, and also there are also few complaints that they're just declaring in the Parliament saying that 200 files of coal scam are missing. There's so many things going on. How would Lokpal help enhance the functioning of CBI? That means at least to a certain extent.
Unfortunately, as per the present law which you are discussing, that is not possible to happen because the Parliament has not given the control of the CBI to Lokpal. As a matter of fact, there was a demand that the CBI should be made an autonomous body, answerable maybe to the Parliament, not to the Government of India administration at all. But they have not accepted that. But one sparkle in the whole thing is that the present law says if the Lokpal wants to use the services of CBI for the purpose of investigation, it is free to do so. And in that process, Government of India will have no supervisory control over the CBI in those cases, and the control lies with the Lokpal, which will supervise the investigation. And during the currency of the investigation, if the officer concerned is required to be transferred, then the permission of the Lokpal should be obtained before that person is transferred. Whereas today it can be done unilaterally by the Government of India, but the present thing, if the officer is investigating a case entrusted to him by the Lokpal, he cannot be transferred unless the Lokpal agrees to such transfer. So there is some element of protection to the officers or institution of CBI when it is investigating a case which is entrusted to it by the Lokpal. Therefore, to that extent the protection is there, but otherwise it is not there. But in Jan Lokpal draft bill it was said to merge the CBI and the CVC with the Lokpal, because that will be one unit which could be controlled easily by the Lokpal institution, which they have not agreed. But they have given the services to Lokpal institution.
Okay. Sir, one last thing is about, we're seeing this convicted MPs like Lalu, who's convicted, who's been jailed, and then he comes out and his 100-vehicle convoy kills few people. So it's baffling for citizens to see such things. Om Prakash Chautala, convicted person, is right now on bail. Lalu Prasad Yadav is out on bail. And we have other convicted criminals like Sukram, who's out on bail, and Bangar Lakshman is out on bail. Now, do you think, had there been this current existing Lokpal, what would be the situation of these people, sir? Let's imagine somebody...
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's imagine I as a citizen has complained to Lokpal about Lalu Prasad Yadav, who has siphoned some money in the fodder scam. Now, how would Lokpal deal with this like you mentioned, like Lokpal can set up a branch of some kind of, officers in CBI exclusively for this case, and that's how it can independently handle it and also make sure that these guys are not transferred, played around with. So can you explain this situation, sir?
Well, that would not have made much of a difference because this is an area of separation of power under the Indian Constitution where we have the legislature which makes the law, we have the executive which administers those laws, and in the case of any dispute, it is the judiciary which decides the dispute in the thing. The system that we have in the jurisprudence, which we have borrowed it from, or at least taken it from the British jurisprudence, is when the investigating agency files a complaint before the court, and that complaint is investigated or in a trial by the court, and if a person is convicted, he has a right of appeal under the Indian laws, criminal laws. And during the period of pendency of the appeal, the Indian courts have laid down, though there are bailable and non-bailable offences, and even in non-bailable offences, when the first appellate court takes the matter for appeal, then if the offence is less than 10 years, conviction is less than 10 years, then normally they are released on bail. And if it is life or death, then they are not released on bail as a matter of rule. There may be exception to both the issues which I mentioned just now. Now, that is left to the court. That neither the local nor the government has nothing to do with that. They can only oppose the grant of bail. Beyond that, there is nothing. And in India, the number of prisoners or under trials are so many. All of them cannot be kept in jail because it is not financially feasible. That's why this system is in existence, which is being misused, especially because of the fact the appellate court also takes a long time.
Right.
That's why these people come out into the public life again. But a recent judgment of the Supreme Court has said, if a person who holds a political office is convicted by a court of law for more than 2 years, then he must demit his office until that charge is reversed by an appellate court. That means you take, for example, now Lalu Yadav, after 17 years, that's a major problem in our judicial system. Right. After 17 years, he was convicted. He for 5.5 years. It automatically removes his qualification to be a member of parliament. So he is now outside the member of parliament. But his freedom is with him now because he's got granted a bail. Right. So during that period until the appeal is heard by the High Court, he will not be a member of parliament. He will not have the privileges of member of parliament, but he will be allowed the freedom of going around anywhere he wants and talking whatever he wants to come. Yes, you did mention a very valid thing that he goes around in his convoy creating problems for the people. This is the unfortunate thing in our administration. It is nothing to do with the laws of the country. These are presumably given for his security. I don't know one-man security, how many people are missing. And even that apart, any number of people you give for security, if a person wants to eliminate somebody else, he can do it. Example is the case of Mrs. Gandhi, both mother and son. Right. Therefore, these are all expenditures on the state, consequently on the people of India, and it is nothing to do with security according to me. Okay? Right. But that's my personal view in the matter. Therefore, nobody can stop that part of it. Even Lokpal cannot stop that. But a court of law in a given rare case may say, no, this is an out-and-out wasteful expenditure that should not be done. But court will not readily do that also. So right. This is a problem which has to be dealt politically or by the people of this country separately, because the present law doesn't help us to do that.
Exactly. And crony capitalism, sir, we know that, contracts of water, electricity are being done by private parties. They are in unison with this political forces, sniping a lot of money in various different states, water mafia, all of this happening around. Does this Lokpal address any part of this crony capitalism that is being at its peaks right now?
No, unfortunately, of course, even otherwise, the practicality of such restrictive laws is not very acceptable to many, because these are policy matters. pricing is a policy matter. It is done by a specialized group of people in administration. I don't think a body like Lokpal, or for that matter even a court of law, is competent to do this. It is on the basis of trust that job is given to these bodies and all. But the people today have little respect for trust. That's the unfortunate thing. Unless there is a out and out social change of thinking, and the respect for this power and wealth, irrespective of what is happening within the system, is changed, I think nothing can change this country. Right. We have to have a social system by which the society boycotts people who are corrupt, people who are in power illegally. Then alone we'll go back to the old system of culture in India. Unless we get back that culture, I think it's extremely difficult to have a very good governance.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Perfect. So on that closing note, post-Lokpal bill passed by the President, signed by the President, and pre-Lokpal bill, which is not signed by the President, how do you see the country, sir, in the next few years? Of course, RTI made a huge difference to our lives, but do you think Lokpal is going to make a huge difference, or it's just something that we have at our behest, but how to use it, how to progress with that is a big question mark. What do you feel, sir, on a closing note?
I am optimistic in this view. The institution is created to give help to the people who are in trouble in a democracy like ours. And if the institution functions bearing in mind its objectives and with a view to help people rather than just sit there in office and enjoy the perks of office, I'm sure it will be of great assistance to the people who are suffering from maladministration.
Perfect. So thank you very, very much for giving your time, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for explaining the entire intricacies and details of the Lokpal bill. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Friends, if you liked today's show, please go to youtube.com/NRI Samay and click on the subscribe button. You will get notified every time we publish a new show. And you can also like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.